is there anything that you kind of leaned on from like a go-to-market perspective as it related to data? Like any sort of kind of transition or growth that you saw by doing something differently with leveraging the data assets that you always had access to?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that, actually, I'll tell you one we're going through right now, literally, which is, we just partnered with an investment firm called Vista Equity Partners. They're a great firm to help companies grow and, kind of go to the next stage. And they've got all these best practices, as you and I were talking about in the kind of warm up to this session. And one of them is to have a really strong database of your total addressable market. Yes. They call it customer and prospect database, CAPDB. And so basically, this is something we ourselves have been working on for the last few years, because you can imagine, given what we do, what we want to know about is who are all the customer success organizations out there? How mature are they? Are they ready for software? Are they ready for Gainsight? And so there's a lot of kind of things you can do. You can take the company data that's out there in lots of different ways, and then you say, okay, well, let's add in data about CSMs, which you can kind of scrape that data or manually collect it, and then you can bring in all kinds of other signals about, let's say funding the companies have raised or events they've had and stuff like that, right? So you can kind of build this thing. So our RevOps team, there's one of their crown jewels, is they built this over the last few years. And now in talking to Vista, we're saying, how do we make that even better? How do we automate some of that? Because some of that's pretty manual. But then how do we operationalize it so that given where a company is in their evolution, you know exactly the right play? This is the whole kind of account-based marketing, account-based selling, right? How do we have the right play for each account based on where they are in the cycle, what their unique needs are, versus just leaving it up to that rep that's talking to the customer? Why don't we give them some suggestions so they can be really focused?
Yeah, we see that often. And I think the companies that are really innovating are taking it to the next level. I mean, ideal customer profile analysis and total addressable market mapping, scoping certainly is that fundamental and foundational layer, but really the propensity to buy is what you're looking for. You need to score those different targets, understanding who's, all of the companies that could buy, but then narrowing down the companies that are more likely to buy. And I think that's where you actually really need to have potentially a multi-vendor data strategy, especially if it's it's cross-vertical. So you can have all of the information about that company, the firmographics, the demographics, and then you understand the personas there, but you also want to understand the intent, how much funding do they have, are they making acquisitions? Companies that are making acquisitions are successfully growing. They probably have, a likelihood to purchase. So that's perfect, Nick. I think from a go-to-market perspective, that's really the evolution that we're seeing in that ecosystem. And you see acquisitions of intent providers, and like ZoomInfo just made one of Clickagy. So it's obviously resonating with the ecosystem. So that's not surprising that's the focus and the data, the data strategy from your new revised GTM with Vista.